Hello Trekkies and welcome back with another The Orville review. Today we're going to talk about the 7th episode of The Orville Season 2, and that's gonna be Deflectors. Wow, what an episode! It started out as a really interesting and cool video for Valentine's Day because, you know, the episode aired in Valentine's Day, but slowly it turned out to be a really sad one, in many reasons. Well, first of all, we got to see Kelly and Cassius breaking up. Well, Kelly kind of didn't really want to go forward with this relationship. She didn't really feel like Cassius the one who, you know, she really wanted to spend her life with, and then Cassius was a kind of bit of a clingy, and he was kind of, you know, didn't really get the message that, hey, Kelly doesn't really want to be with you anymore, so stop bothering her with messages and stuff. Well, apparently this behavior still exists in the 25th century, and if the messages weren't already enough, he was sending cookie bouquets and even a talking plant who was actually really annoying. Moving on, in this episode, the Orville going on an upgrade in Moklas. They're going to get a new deflector to the ship. Now, we're gonna talk about the deflector a bit later because there's something that I noticed that I don't really like, but that's, as I mentioned, a bit later. So in this episode, we got to see Moklas again, and we got to get a Moklan scientist, a Moklan engineering, who happened to be Bortus's ex-boyfriend. So Lockhart being in the ship and upgrading the engines is one thing, but there was something really odd about him. He kind of looked at Tala quite often, and I kind of started to suspect that he might turn into what we could call gay. Although it's really interesting to see this aspect of the Orville, and you know, with the Moklans they're a bit strange as well, because the Moklans are an all male species. If they have a female around, they will just, like, you know, alter it, or they just abandon her or something, and they even alter the kids when they happen to become female. But until this point we didn't really get to see what if an adult Moklan doesn't really fancy going out with guys, he actually fancies going out with girls. Obviously this was a really heavy aspect of this episode, and you could actually felt that in Tala's situation, in Tala's acting. You could feel that in Bortus, you can feel that in almost everyone except Clyden. Clyden was too friendly, which I found really annoying and really uncharacteristic from him. Despite the fact that Clyden is not really my favorite character in the Orville universe, I didn't see him committing a crime. Having Tala in this investigation and having Tala being accused that she was the one who actually caused Lockhart's death, it was also a really emotional part of this episode. So long story short, the interesting investigation started, and they ended up that basically Tala found out that Lockhart didn't die. He just actually disappeared from the sensors. He wanted to, you know, just disappear from everywhere. He faked his own death and he wanted to sneak out in the next starbase, but obviously Tala found him, and she had to do what she had to do. She had to do her duties, and she had to put Lockhart back to the Moklan society, and Lockhart had to face with his shame and his destiny and his enormous pain that he won't be able to love anyone in the future and anymore, because he probably gonna get executed because he's a bit different. And when Clyden went to thank Tala that oh, you actually saved me, thank you very much, you brought justice to everyone, and then Tala was really just, you know, just get out of my sight, I don't want to see you, just when I see you, just like turning the other way, when I'm going one way, you're going to the other way, I just don't want to see you, because you made this innocent man who just wanted to have love suffer. So this episode was really sad and emotional. We got to see Lockhart going into the tribunal, and he probably gonna get executed. We got to see Bortus dealing with the whole situation and seeing his old ex, and then on the other side seeing Clyden coming back, and Clyden is kind of like, yeah, I'm here, I'm still here for you and everything. Unless Bortus decides to break up with him and you know, decides to stab him in the heart, just as he did when he got jealous. So yes, overall this episode was absolutely amazing. It was really emotional, really sad, and it tackled the really interesting issues, how a male society and then someone from a male society, old male society, becomes what they would call gay. And tackling this issue in a different setup, it was really just interesting and really refreshing. I don't really remember seeing this in any kind of sci-fi genre, so I do have to say a massive thank you for the creative guys in the Orville and the writers in the Orville, plus the actors, because they had a really fabulous acting performance in this episode. One thing before I go about the Deflectors, as I mentioned, I'm going to go back to this, and I really have to say this because it just bugs me so much. So they installed this new Deflector in the Orville, and they got into this practice fight and the deflector actually got disabled for a couple of seconds, and Lockhart said that, oh, it's gonna recharge, don't worry about that. But what if the crew actually attacks the Orville and they're going to go into a situation when the deflector actually has to recharge, and then the Orville will be defenseless? The crew just shuts a couple of torpedoes and the Orville gonna blow up. And they called this test successful. I don't think that was a really wise decision from Chief Lamar to saying that, hey, this test actually was successful. But if we get blown up in the next episode, blame Lockhart. So apart from that, I really love this episode and I'm really looking forward to see how did you like this episode. Please let me know in the comment section below what was your favorite or least favorite moment, and let's start the discussion as always. That was it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching as always. Please don't forget to like and share the video, and don't forget to subscribe to receive all the geekiness every week. And until next time, live long and prosper.